opportunities just weren't there. And most of the people who were growing up in my generation, many of them moved out anyway, and a lot of them, of course, moved to England. Some of them moved to the States. But they always seemed to have done better than those that remained behind. I started in Scots, and I was run from Glasgow, Ayrshire. And I was there until my teens, university in Aberdeen. And I taught in polytechnics in Edinburgh and in Paisley. And then I went back home to Scots to a school that was starting up. I stayed there for about 8 years. Scots was okay when I was growing up. When I was a kid, it was a pretty busy little seaside place. But as time went on, the shipyards closed and the continental holidays became in vogue and became cheaper, and people went there as opposed to coming to the coast. So the town began to decay a little bit. There were 2 nuclear power stations 9 kilometres up the coast, and an explosives factory about 2 kilometres down the coast. They were a concern, not only for myself, but for the family. I was looking forward to a new start, a new place, and a new lifestyle. A lifestyle that suited me better, that was a bit more energetic, and certainly an environment that was, to me, healthier, cleaner air, the air and the light here in comparison to the dull grey days and in the Scottish winter. I think there are certain characteristics that Scots have that stick with them, like their accent. And I mean, I would never describe myself as anything else but Scots. Yet, I feel as much a New Zealander as I do a Scotsman. There's occasionally a little sadness, something more than sentiment, but there's certainly no deep regret about the move I made. Sinead went back, and obviously it's arranged if one of your children's on the other side of the world and going to be there on what looks like being a permanent basis. On the other hand, it's not as if she's gone to somewhere that's strange to me.
Well, I lived in New Zealand from the age of 9 to the age of 20, and I think I'd always wanted to come back to see what it was like. I mean, there are a lot of New Zealanders who leave New Zealand at the same age as I left to go around and see the world and see Europe, and in some ways I was doing just that, but because I was coming back to people and things that I knew and that I could relate to, it was probably that way it was the obvious choice for me to come back to Glasgow. I thought it was pretty ugly, actually, when I first got back. It was really disappointing, because, again, it's the whole fact that you've left at age 9, you've got this big romantic notion about what it's like, and, I mean, I remember driving in to Glasgow and thinking, oh, God, you know, all these houses all crammed together, and it was a real shock, because that's not how I expected it to be. The beauty of Glasgow is not Glasgow, it's the people, because there's some nice architecture and there's some lovely old buildings, but there's a whole load of really ugly bits to Glasgow, and there's a really sinister side to it, which you don't contemplate at all coming back. You just think it's going to be this complete bed of roses. So, I mean, it was as much a culture shock coming back here as it was going to New Zealand. I mean, there was a time when I first got back and it was hellish, because I didn't know anybody apart from, like, aunties and grannies, and they're not a hell of a lot of good for going to the pub with, you know? It's, like, a bit difficult.
I, Sinead Taylor. I, Sinead Taylor. Solemnly.
That was cool. It was dead Scottish with all these guys in kilts. I think we had about 11 guys in kilts, and I don't know what they were wearing under them because they never showed me. But It was very Scottish. We went to Gretna. In Gretna in Scotland, you run away to get married in Gretna, but we ran away with 40 people, so I suppose it counts for something. We didn't exactly elope.
When I saw the video, I was a bit emotional. I was a bit upset about the fact that I hadn't been there. I'd like to have been there to give her away. There's no point in disguising that. I mean, you don't uproot yourself and move to the other side of the world without some price to pay.
When I was in New Zealand, I always called Scotland home. And now that I'm in Scotland, I suppose in a way I do feel like I'm home, but at the same time, like talking to my dad on the phone the other night, it was like, oh, I can't wait to come home for Christmas. It's like I'm really homesick.
We came on Christmas Eve, and it's a marvellous opportunity for them to come together again and enjoy one another's company. 6 years is a long time, and they've all grown up in their different directions. And
Caught up with my sisters and my brother and my dad. I mean, it's lovely, lovely surf, lovely sand, lovely sunshine, but I don't really like that. I'm not a beachy, sunshine kind of person, so I want to go home to Glasgow now.
Christmas comes around, it doesn't feel like Christmas because the whole family's not together. It's been neat this year, but it's just not the same. Some of those family things are just not the same because you're all in different parts of the world. But I mean, that's just life. I wouldn't go over there just so we can all be together.
When Sinead went back, she was very set that she would stay. She would go back and that she would settle. And I don't know if I'll stay or not because I don't know what it will be like. It was a decision made for us. As adults, we're going to remake that decision. So I think for everyone else, there is going to come a time when they go back and say, well, do I stay or do I go back to New Zealand?
I don't know, I just feel like I belong in Glasgow. A sense of belonging that I don't have here. There's not one particular thing about Glasgow that I love more than anything else. I just want to go back. I miss the people. I miss the cold. I miss the rain. I'm just a doer person.
I first got interested in my ancestry through a friend who sent me a scroll on the surname of MacDonald and where it came from, how it came to be, and I was just fascinated by the history so much that I thought, being a MacDonald, I better delve into this and have a good serious look at where I came from and who I came through. It spurred me to start writing my musical